Welcome back to the deep dive. Let's jump straight into a scenario that should make your stomach clench a bit.
Okay.
You're the most junior professional on call. A patient on your ward is, well, deteriorating rapidly. They need an urgent invasive procedure, let's say an emergency pleural aspiration,
Mm.
and you have only ever practiced this on a simulator. To make it
Mhm.
worse, your senior registrar is tied up in emergency theater for the next half hour, completely unreachable.
Right.
What do, in that exact moment?
That moment, that exact point of uncertainty where competence meets urgency, that's really the heart of today's deep dive.
Okay.
Our mission is to master self-awareness and insight. It's a non-negotiable professional standard. What we want to do is give you a framework for those high-stakes decisions.
A framework that protects the patient but also protects your professional integrity when you hit one of those competency gaps. Because the pressure in those moments is just immense. You want to be the hero, you want to save the patient yourself, but what the source material shows us again and again is that the core philosophy is simple.
It is.
Know your limits, seek help early, protect safety, and then learn from feedback. This isn't about clinical bravado, it's about structured accountability.
Precisely. And when we talk about self-awareness and insight, what we mean is the ability to recognize your boundaries right now, to work strictly within your competence.
And to get help before you're in too deep.
Yes, to seek that necessary supervision before attempting something high risk, and then, crucially, to use reflection and feedback to actively improve your practice later on.
So why is this specific trait so highly valued? I mean, why not just grade people on their technical skill?
Because the so what is always patient safety. A body like the GMC, the General Medical Council in the UK, they understand that overconfidence or, bluffing your way through something.
Or just delaying calling for help because you're embarrassed.
Exactly. That causes direct patient harm. In these situations, the time you lose to ego is measured in patient deterioration. Early escalation being transparent. That's what stops a bad situation becoming a catastrophic one. It's accountability in action.
Okay. So let's ground this. How does this connect back to those core professional standards?
Well, to really understand this, we have to anchor everything to the foundational expectations set out by the GMC. The highest scoring actions in these scenarios are never an accident.
They're not just a good clinical guess.
Not at all. They directly align with these core duties.
So we're moving beyond just the clinical facts here.
Yeah.
We're focusing on the professional response when you have a gap in those facts. What are the key principles we need to keep in mind?
There are 4 core pillars, really. The first is competence and CPD. That's continuous professional development.
Right.
You have an active duty to keep your knowledge up to date, to recognize your limits honestly, and only practice with the right supervision. If you haven't been signed off on something or haven't done it live and supervised recently,
Then the standard says you shouldn't be attempting it solo.
that's it.
But doesn't that create a real-world tension? I mean, what if you are the only person there who could even attempt a life-saving action, and waiting 30 minutes for a senior just feels intolerable?
It does, but the standard always prioritizes the safe option. The source material is clear that a supervised, competent action, even if it's slightly delayed while you escalate, is always better than an unsupervised, unsafe attempt.
So the safe option is often about doing 2 things at once.
Exactly. Stabilizing the patient while you get competent help. And that brings us to the second pillar, teamworking and supervision.
Using your resources, basically.
Yes, you have to ensure there's appropriate supervision for the tasks you're doing, and you escalate your concerns early and clearly. You're not just calling the registrar, you're escalating a safety concern to protect your patient.
Okay, what's third?
The third is insight and accountability. This means being fully responsible for your own practice, responding to feedback constructively, not defensively, and then reflecting and documenting properly after any incidents or even near misses. Accountability means recording why you made the decisions you did.
And what about delegating? That's something junior professionals have to do all the time.
That's the fourth point. Delegation insight. If you're the one delegating a task, say, asking a nurse to take some observations, you still hold the ultimate responsibility for making sure that person is competent and the delegation is safe. You can't just wash your hands of it.
Okay, so let's translate those duties into a concrete step-by-step approach. When you face that competency challenge, what are the actions that consistently score the highest?
There's a clear sequence, and it's all about maximizing safety and accountability.
We need to know what to do first, next, and last.
Step 1, immediately. Assess your competence quickly. This is an internal check. Can I do this safely right now with the support available.
And you have to be honest with yourself.
Absolutely.
Right.
If the answer is anything less than a confident yes, you have to put safety over speed. That's the step that prevents the unsafe attempt.
And if that answer is no, what's the immediate follow-up?
Step 2. Seek help and supervision. Don't delay. You have to be clear about the urgency. Is this immediate or can it wait 10 minutes? And you need to identify who exactly needs to come. The registrar, the consultant, the site team.
So that escalation adds timely, competent oversight.
Yes. And while help is on its way, you move to step 3. This is the bridge. Protect the patient.
Stabilize them.
Stabilize them immediately. Use your basic protocols. This means a thorough ABCDE assessment airway, breathing, circulation, disability, exposure. You monitor their vitals. You start oxygen if needed. You're buying crucial time and safety for the senior to arrive.
And step 4.
Step 4 goes back to that principle of insight. Be honest. State your limits transparently to your colleagues and where it's relevant to the patient.
Especially if your experience level could affect the risk or their consent to the procedure.
That's the critical part, yes.
Yeah.
Honesty is everything there.
And the final action closes the loop, doesn't it? It shifts from the crisis to, future development.
Yeah, it does. Step 5 is to record and reflect. Document the whole escalation trail, who you called, when, what they said, and then you plan your learning. This has to be an active plan, like booking specific supervised training.
It creates that accountability for your future self.
That's it.
Okay, to make that pathway stick, we need a memory hook. And you have one for us called the aware mnemonic.
It's designed to be something you can pull up instantly, the moment you feel uncertain or out of your depth.
Lay it out for us. What's A?
A is for assess limits. Simple question, can I do this safely?
W.
W is for warn escalate early. You have to communicate the urgency.
Then the second A.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
Be really specific about who you need and why.
Okay. R is for.
Refer direct. That means handing over the task to a competent clinician.
And finally, E.
E is for educate or reflect. Document what happened and plan your CPD to close that gap.
I think when you're under pressure, the actual words you use are so important. So what does good professional communication sound like in these moments? Can you give us some model phrases that would score highly?
The language has to be really clear. It should combine transparency with decisive action. So instead of saying, I might not be good enough for this.
Which sounds a bit weak.
It does. You should say, this procedure is beyond my current supervised experience. I need the medical registrar to supervise or perform it, and I need them now.
That's so clear. It states the boundary and the solution at the same time.
Exactly. Or if you're talking to the patient while waiting for help, you could say, I'm stabilizing your vital signs and monitoring you closely, and I've arranged for an experienced senior clinician to attend immediately to take the lead.
And what about for that reflection piece afterwards?
In your notes or in your portfolio, you'd write something like, I am documenting the decision to escalate, and I am organizing supervised training next week to close this specific skill gap. That shows insight and a clear action plan.
Let's do a quick troubleshooting FAQ. We've done step 2, we've called the senior, but they're stuck, or maybe they sound unhelpful. What happens when that first attempt to get help fails?
You never stop. You never stop acting to protect the patient. The sources are really clear on this. You continue to stabilize them with your ABCDE skills, and you escalate further up the chain immediately.
So to the duty consultant or the site manager?
Yes, and you keep calling until competent help is secured and is physically there with you. Failure to get help is an administrative problem, not a clinical excuse to stop trying.
Right. And the second question. What if you start a task, say a difficult central line, and halfway through you realize you are completely out of your depth? You can't just walk away.
No, but you have to recognize that shift. You stop safely, which might mean just securing what you've done so far, while you call for help immediately. Then you give a very clear, concise handover of exactly what's happening.
So stopping safely is always better than pushing on unsafely because of pride.
Always. It's the highest scoring action, every time.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the trap answers, the low-scoring options that are designed to catch people out.
And there's a golden rule here. If an action hides your limits, shows bravado, or delays escalation or stabilization, it's going to score badly.
What's the number one trap?
The classic is having a go at a procedure unsupervised, just hoping for the best.
Just crossing your fingers.
Yes. It's fundamentally unsafe, it breaches your duty of competence, and it puts your convenience above the patient's safety. It's a guaranteed low score.
What else?
Another big one is delaying escalation. This so often comes from pride or the fear of looking incompetent to a senior. But the sources are crystal clear on this. Patient safety outweighs professional hierarchy or embarrassment every single time.
And bluffing to a patient or a colleague.
That scores incredibly poorly. Bluffing knowledge or experience just undermines valid consent. If the patient doesn't know an inexperienced person is taking the lead, their consent is invalid. It's professional dishonesty.
Okay, and the last trap.
Ignoring feedback or failing to create an action plan. If you do that, you just remain an ongoing risk to the system because that learning gap hasn't been addressed or documented.
Let's apply this AWARE framework to a classic complex scenario. The junior doctor facing 3 things at once: a patient with new chest pain, an urgent IV cannula needed for antibiotics, and a relative asking for a detailed update. And the doctor is unsure of the chest pain protocol.
This is a test of triage and insight. You've got 3 important tasks, but they don't have the same priority. The highest scoring option has to combine the safety-critical problem with early escalation.
So the chest pain is the immediate life threat.
It is. And the doctor's lack of confidence in the protocol means their competence is challenged. So the ideal action is to go to the patient with chest pain immediately and at the same time call the medical registrar urgently to get senior input.
And while you wait,
you start your basic assessments, observations, and ECG, that's the protect the patient step, and you use your team. You delegate that necessary but not life-threatening IV cannula to a competent nurse.
right. So you're prioritizing life over admin while immediately getting the help you need for the area you're not confident in.
Correct. The worst options are always trying to manage the chest pain all on your own without senior input. That's the unsafe pride trap. Or delaying the clinical assessment to spend 20 minutes giving the family that update.
Even though the update is important.
It's important for communication, but it does not trump immediate clinical safety.
So when we pull all this together, what does it all mean? Let's recap the 3 essential takeaways for you.
First, and most importantly, safety beats pride. Ask for help early and clearly.
Second, always match the task to your documented competence and the supervision that's available.
And third, stabilize the patient now with ABCDE. Then document your actions, your escalation, and plan your future learning for full accountability. Just remember AWARE. Assess, warn, ask, refer, educate.
We focused a lot on how to react to a competency gap right now in the heat of a crisis. But here's a final thought for reflection. How does consistently practicing this AWARE model, being quick, honest, and documented about your learning gaps, how does that fundamentally change the way you approach your professional development and mentoring throughout your entire career?
It's a great question. It shifts the whole professional environment, doesn't it? From one that's based on hiding your limits to one based on transparent, accountable, and documented growth.